Hello everyone, we are live yet again. I'm gonna get myself going, there we go. And we'll be getting going for my author's chat of the week. In just a few minutes, I'm gonna let, obviously, this app kind of go and send the word out that we are live. We'll be starting to talk books, writing, publishing, and everything in between in a few more minutes. And, but yeah, so this week, starting off pretty well, I've been working on finishing up some edits for the 14th, I have to remember which one we're on, 14th volume of The Guardian Speaker, which is my Viking dark fantasy for adult readers, and that's really exciting for me since what that means now is I get to start moving to the formatting part of it, and hopefully I will be able to start sending that to ARC readers in the very near future. So we'll be getting that going soon, and also working on my first book of a duology, which is a different retelling since I am loving formatting. Formatting is sometimes the worst. Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. I hear you and I don't see you, so I don't know if you're gonna flip your video on or not, but
Yes, I will. And I'm also going to join from my other account.
that works.
Wait, can you guys see me? Oh,
I
crap.
do not see you. Just your icon.
Save.
There you go. Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
Of course, I love always talking with various authors, especially on a weekly basis. It's so cool because you get to learn from so many different writers and so many different perspectives. And I keep a notepad now. I learned my lesson. Keep it with me because I always learn something, and I'm like, ooh, I want to take a memo on that. So I actually keep notes on these things because I'm here to learn as much as anybody else.
Wow.
But,
And you've written a lot of books, right?
I've written a few, yes, and but a number of them, they look a lot like I have a lot more than I really do because one series is novellas, so technically 4 of them compiles one book, so it cuts down the number dramatically when you start considering that. But I do love my fantasy books, and I try to release as many as I can. I wish I could release more, but life gets in the way sometimes.
I'm trying to find you on my computer so I can join from the other account.
Not a problem. We'll get that going. And the reason she's doing this is because 2 accounts, so maybe we'll reach a wider following of people. We'll see. We're testing things out today. And
Yes.
if not, we'll talk like this, and that's totally fine. And as always, if this platform is nice, and sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, I will be able to repurpose this and repost this on my YouTube channel, putting all your content down below so people can find and follow you going forward. At least that's the hope. You never know. But yeah, so I was just talking about right before we synced up is the fact that I've been working through the formatting process, about to head into the formatting process of my next novella. And that's so nitpicky for me. It's not my favorite aspect of being a writer at any means. It's just so nitpicky. But
Yeah.
how about you? What is one of your least favorite things about being a writer? And what's one of your favorite things about being a writer?
Least favorite is the marketing.
Yes,
The
okay,
sales.
fair.
Oh my God, that's like a totally other personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like being in the thinking mindset of the creating of the story, but I've
yes.
never been a sales kind of person. I'm such an introvert, and for me to talk about my novel, I can talk about anything else. I will get really passionate up here and I'll talk about all the problems of the world and all of that stuff. No, nothing can stop me from making a video about that. But if it's about making a video about my book, I feel bad. I wouldn't know how to do it. So maybe it's extreme shyness, but that's the hardest part for me.
Well, you're not alone, and I consider myself an extreme extrovert, and I still struggle with that problem. So I don't think it's that, but there is something with the sense of many of us writers, I think, have the right brain in the sense the creative entity, which we do need. But we also learn, especially if you're an indie author and have to promote yourself, that we also need the marketing brain, which it's a little harder for many of us.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay, I cannot figure out how to join from
That's
my
fine.
computer.
We'll go with this,
So,
and it'll be totally fine because you're here, and that's what matters.
yes.
And and so what I'm going to do is turn it over to you briefly because everybody who is co-hosting gets to introduce themselves and what you write, and then we'll just go from there.
Okay, so my pen name is Zaayin Salaam. It's not my real name, but it's very close to my real name. And the reason I chose a pen name is for security and just a little more freedom from my regular identity. Like I'm a physician, I'm a doctor, but this is a fiction book. It's for fun.
Yeah.
And I also write sometimes about topics that might need some security.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm one of those types of authors.
That's fine. And that's the thing is like when it comes to pen names, when you make that choice, every author makes that choice. And that is something you consider because if you build enough a big fan base, you'll get amazing followers. You may get some extreme followers. You may get some people who don't like your work and are not afraid to see that either. And so having a pen name does have that buffer. And when you choose to have it or to not, or not, just be aware there are, again, with everything, pros and cons. So
True. Yeah, I wrote a book called With Love from Planet B. It's a futuristic sci-fi spiritual novel. So it does have a lot of those soul tugging elements and people say it's thoughtful. I think that was the most common word used in the reviews according to Amazon. It's about our future where we've basically ignored climate change and the deadlines and it's a dystopian, but it's based on real predictions. So it's not coming from a very emotional place. Let me put it that way. Like I wanted to do it right. Yes, it's fiction and there's some little exaggeration here or there where I literally had to pull back the numbers because things were happening sooner than they were predicted to happen, like disasters. So I had to make some adjustments, but it starts off as like a serious read. And then it sort of became self-therapy and it became spiritual and it took me through my spiritual awakening. Like my life has been very interesting for the past few years. And even now, after I'm done with the book, I feel like I don't know what's next. What am I going to do? The book that was such a big thing and it took me 5 years. So, and it's the only one that I've ever written. So.
Hey, well, we all start somewhere. And for me, my first book took me 10 years to figure out from the concept to publishing to, just that. And so everybody writes at their own pace. And there are plenty of people who write that one book that they needed to do at that part of their lives. And then that was it. That's fine. That's all you needed. Other people are like, no, I want to make this a career thing if I can. And so the question then is, what is next? It doesn't matter if you're a standalone writer or a series writer, but once you're finished with that initial idea, then what is next does kind of come to you and you're like, what next?
Yeah.
So what was it that initially inspired you to write your book? Because we all get inspired by different things, but we also have that different moment that clicks that, no, we're not just going to like dabble. We're actually going to write a book. So what was it for you that made you decide to sit down and start doing this?
Climate change. I've been reading about the predictions since I was 15. And back then, a lot of the wrong things were happening. In 2017, we had pulled out of the UN climate accord and we had cut back a lot of the steps we had taken forward to protect the environment and trees and all of that. So I've been learning about that stuff. And I think I was just overwhelmed and angry. And I just started writing for my own self-therapy, the future I saw and how people would live. And it just started pouring out of me. I couldn't stop. I was having so much fun. It was really helping me sort things out. And then the next thing I knew, in a few months, I had the first draft. Of course, I've never done this before, so I didn't know I had a first draft.
Yeah.
That was done. Boy, was I wrong.
Editing.
Yeah, I even printed it out and I was like, hey, family, I wrote a book. No, that's just the first draft. Gosh.
And then it changes and evolves, and again, depending on your style of writing, some can evolve a little bit and just tweak and polish up. Others are surprising because the thing they finish with is absolutely nothing like the thing they began with. But, you know, that's, again, the part of the writing process. And it is shocking for many, many new readers how much other work goes into writing a book more than just writing a book, because that sounds really daunting enough. If I feel bad for anybody who wants to write a book has not even started trying, because we hear this next thing, it might shock you. But the writing part is actually one of the quickest things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't
So you write sci-fi fantasy or mostly fantasy and magic?
Yeah, so right now I'm sticking with the fantasy side of things. Not to say that I don't have like ideas in the background and like notes for potential books that go beyond and outside of the fantasy realm, but right now I'm pretty comfortable with trying to market myself as a fantasy author, and so that's where I'm currently staying, and for the next predicted how many years I foresee all of my work staying within fantasy. And I am fortunate that as a writer, I'm the person that has a problem where I have too many ideas and not enough time to catch up to where my ideas are spinning off of. But again, that's not a bad thing to have. But
No.
and what's interesting is when you were talking about your work, especially about how this whole writing process helped you kind of, like you said, have a spiritual journey, have this kind of therapeutic journey. And I've talked with more and more, especially the last couple months, a lot of authors that have been on that same kind of mindset where when they started writing, they didn't realize, you know, it just ended up becoming this therapeutic process to help them with whatever it was they wanted or needed at that time, be it, you know, coping from trauma to something, again, a little bit more on the spiritual and the awakening side of things. But it is really fascinating how many authors become authors because they write something that's that impactful for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. They say write something you would want to read.
Exactly.
If it's something therapeutic, you know, it'll be therapeutic for others as well.
And that's the part of the trick with the marketing. That means you have to find the others as well, but a lot of us struggle with that one.
Yeah.
So with you're saying part of it was a sci-fi, and it deals with, again, this coming from your concepts of the issues with the global warming and the change, and then the dramatic predictions of the what can potentially happen if things don't change aspect. So when you're talking about this as a sci-fi, do you keep it to Earth and just, again, the repercussions of the global warming and the planet damage, or are you going to be above and beyond our planet when you write?
Oh, a whole other world.
Ooh.
A whole other world. Hey, I think I just figured out why I couldn't join. I think you have to invite me up. So if you can invite that account, I'll see if I can join. Because I told my followers there I'd be going live today.
Let's see if that worked.
If it lets you.
May not. I did try to say add guest.
Okay.
So it says I sent an invite, supposedly.
Oh yeah? Okay. I don't see it. I'm sorry, I probably should have done this before.
It's okay. This is also the first time I was trying to invite more than one person, so it's a learning curve. Let me see. Confirm.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can do it one more time. Guest.
If you click on my name and see if you can invite me. Hi, Billy.
That's what I'm trying to do.
I was just trying to share the live.
Let's see. I'm trying to figure this out.
I am here with Miss Katharine. She is a sci-fi fantasy writer. I know I usually talk about more serious stuff, but today I am just talking about my novel. Not sure I should talk about it on this account though, but anyway.
Well, another option is if you want to back out and try to join with your other account, that can be another way to do it. But I tried to send the invite, but I've never done multiple.
Yeah, it's
One
okay.
more time. No, it says I invited you, so I don't know. Cries.
So how many books have you written? 14?
Technology. Oh, so how many books I have at this moment? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 full lengths and 13 novellas at this moment. And those are all part of 3 series.
Have you been writing since you were a kid? Since you were a child?
No, well, I've always told stories. I feel like I'm just a person that it comes naturally of whatever inspires me, it just spins off ideas. And so characters, backstories, worlds, multiverses, which I've developed. I didn't know that term until far, far later, but that just made sense to me, just growing up and coming up with those kind of things. But I didn't really start writing any of the works until right before I went to college. I had this idea where I was like, okay, I want this to be my first book. Even when I was little, I was like, I'm going to write a book one day.
Okay.
Very self-confident child. And right before I went to college, I had this idea and I was like, ooh, this is the one I want to like work on. But again, college. And so post-graduation, when I was, cobbling with all different jobs together and all kinds of stuff, I kind of fit time here and there to start actually moving that story forward. And that's why it took me a long time to end up writing, going through the editing process, finding editors. I did a little querying at the time and decided to end up go with self-publishing, that whole long, arduous process before I actually published it in 2016. But my first book was Asara's Claws, which is one of 4 books of my dark shapeshifter fantasy about a kingdom getting thrown in the midst of a war scenario. So that was my first book.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah. And you went with self-publishing from the beginning.
Yes, I did.
Good.
Like I said, I kind of dabbled querying a little bit with that first book, but wasn't good at it. And again, it was all a learning curve. And that's when someone told me, who came up, and I was introduced to another person who was a self-published author. And she kind of was like giving me tips and tricks of how she did it. And of course, back in 2016, and it was weird to say back in 2016, the self-publishing whole world of self-publishing was very different than it is today. There are far more accessible resources today and variety of platforms and resources today than there were back then. So it's drastically changing. But yeah, it took me a little bit, and went self-publishing with my first book, have continued it since. I did try to query one of my other ones and did get some interest, but I was marketing for a YA art audience, and they're very specific on word count. And my book was a lot bigger than what was required. So I decided to go and self-publish that one because I didn't want to cut out a third of that book. I've done self-publishing before. I'm going to publish it the way I want to and go from there. But
That's awesome. Hey, listen, let me come back with the other account, please.
okay, that
If you
works.
don't
Not a
mind.
problem.
I'll be right back.
Totally
I feel bad about my viewers there.
It's fine. We'll get this going. And yeah, like I said, she had 2 different accounts trying to see if she could mush together all her followers to get them on. But let's see. Invite. Let's see if she sees the invite. Did we get it? We're learning things. I'm learning things.
Okay. Cool.
Hello.
I have no idea if that's going to make a difference in the amount of followers, but here I am.
It's one of those things that I will do it at the same time, same time a week, back-to-back weeks, and some days I'll get a whole bunch, other days not. Never figured it out. I guess it really just matters on who's out.
Yeah.
But
We should definitely just have fun and talk about just fun stuff and relax. It's really cool that you went with self-publishing. I like that. And it's really cool that you got interest in your queries. I didn't, but I didn't really query that much because I read some article that said, mathematically speaking, you would have to send like 1,000 emails a day for someone to reply to you or to actually know what's going on. I was like, oh, screw that. I'm not doing all that. Plus, I didn't want to change things too much.
Yeah. And that's one of those nice things of choosing indie publishing is that you have so much more control of your end product than if you went with a traditionally published publishing house platform. They have the right to change things, and to what extent, that varies, but it just means you may lose some of those aspects that you wanted to be in it, but they chose not to keep them in because for whatever their marketing algorithm, for whatever genre you're pushing, it just didn't make sense to them. So I like self-publishing. It does open the world to having a wider range of styles of books to come out, and not just the ones that the big publishing houses are like, this is what the people want, but now we're like, but is it?
Exactly.
Or, check this out.
Exactly. I was surprised how close-minded they were. Like, I attended some conferences and they were very picky about what type of things they're looking for, and even what tropes. If you follow some of these agents, like I was told to follow them on Twitter, so I followed a whole bunch of them on Twitter, and I'm reading their tweets, and they're like, for this season, we're looking for a trope of this and this and this. Like, I was just like, what? That's so so someone's going to write that trope just because you want to make it? How authentic, or like, where's the fun in that? It should be a story someone came up with. Like, I want to tell this story. This is awesome. I sat down and I wrote a whole book about it. And instead, it's not like that. It's like, we're looking for this. Now we're looking for that. It's like,
well, it is a business, and so they're basing it off a lot of statistics because they're going to invest all their time and money. They want almost an assurance that they're going to get people, and so they know how to market certain niches, but that doesn't mean other ones aren't just as fantastic. It's part of their, it's a game of the business game. I don't know. But yeah, so that's one of those things that people have to realize if they're going to go traditional. But there's a lot of perks for that too. The help that some will get, not everybody, but some people get, a bigger backing community, and, some of those aspects like finding your first editor, dealing with the cover design, some of that gets, taken off your shoulders and distributed to other people, and that does seem nice. Yeah. I'm a control freak, and I also like
Plus, when I heard you have to do your own marketing on TikTok at the end of the day, I was like, well, what's the point then? You're supposed to do the marketing for me. This is the hardest part.
Yeah. Now, if you do very well on social media, you may get an offer from a big publishing house. But again, that is not the case for everybody. That is few and far between. I have known people who have had those offers, and some have taken it. Some have said, absolutely not. Indie publishing is the way for me. So it is a case-by-case thing. Now, for you, once you had your book completed, how did you figure out the next steps? Did you hire an editor? Did you find someone to help format? What did you do? What did you figure out how to find someone else to help you along the way? Did you have help? That kind of, all that fun stuff.
Girl, I didn't have a lot of people close to me who would read it and give me feedback, so that I would love to have just picked someone's brain. So I used editors for that. I had like 8 editors in total, I think, which is a lot more than most people do. But I also changed the book a lot, and I rewrote it from third person to first person, and it just became this very big thing. I didn't know when I was done. Like, I gave myself, I kind of knew I could feel it, because a lot of it was downloads, or it was sort of like I had made this connection with the other world me. I was whatever I was getting my downloads from, and it had to be true to that connection, if that makes any sense. So I waited to learn when it was finished, and I gave myself the publication date of 11/11. And I was like, okay, by then it should be. And it did work out. The ideas I started having of changing things, I realized are not such a big deal. Like, it's never going to finish if I wait for that last 1%, bing, so after that, what did I do right after that? I tried to market it on TikTok. Honestly, I worked on the website and I just hardly made like one or two videos about getting subscribers. By the way, if anyone is watching, if you subscribe, it's planetbethebook.com and you'll get some extras. I'm not going to bombard you with emails, but just a little bit fun stuff. Check out the website. It's cool. And then I was like, okay, what do I do next? I think I Googled what to do next. And someone's like, hey, now send your book out for awards. I was like, okay. So I started submitting it for awards. And you are an award-winning author as well, right?
Yeah, I have a few for all my series so far, which is very, very nice. But yeah, that's one of those things. It's nice to be recognized, and if you get that chance, that it feels good to be recognized for all that hard work you put into your...
Yes, yes. And it is hard work. It's like hard. It came from here. Like it meant so much, right? Are your books like that? Do you feel like, oh no, they're like so dear to me?
I'll say, my first ones were a little, you know, I mean, they're all, as I say repeatedly, they're my book babies. But it is interesting because the first ones and my experiences with my earlier works are definitely different than they are now. But part of that is because I've written enough. And I've have like, you know, the thicker skin you develop a little bit when you first get your initial bad reviews and stuff like that. The first kind of negative comment, you're like, the first time you hear it, and it's traumatizing and it's hurtful and all that kind of stuff. But now I've revamped how I view things, and they're still my books, and I will defend them.
Yeah.
But not necessarily as emotionally tied as maybe that first couple were, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. It's maybe even a little more intellectual and more like a skill that you're working on.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it is. I mean, the more you write, the better you get at the writing process. So that's at least part of it. So.
So are you a professional writer, or do you have like a day job?
I am right now, it feels like a day-to-day thing, but right now I qualify myself as a full-time author, but I'm also an artist. So what I don't make from one I make from the other. So between the two, I'm able to turn on lights, put food on the counter, that kind of thing. But it's a little bit of a cobbling between those two occupations. And so there are days where I don't get enough, I feel like, writing done, but maybe it's because I'm working on a pet portrait. So it's one of those things. And I do see a question popping up asking what we are reading at the moment. And it's a practical guide to sorcery. So kind of cool. What I'm reading right now, I am working through multiple books because two of them are for research because I'm doing a retelling of a particular Greek myth. And so I have all the ancient texts that pertain to it, and I'm reading through each one. So there's that. But for the fun side of thing, as a lover of all things fantasy, I'm reading the second book of the Drizzt, or the Legend of Drizzt series, called Exile. And that is a dark fantasy D&D style literature for those who don't know. How about you? What are you reading at this moment?
I'm just reading one book, and it's not fiction. Let me show it to you, actually.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. I am reading The Guide to Anti-Aging and Regenerative Medicine. It's like a notebook, just the brief basics. So I'm an MD, and this is like a course I was
gonna ask, was this for the work side or personal pleasure or both? Because I know when it comes to things that I enjoy, like writing, even writing craft books, I'm finding out that I actually kind of enjoy that in a weird way. So that's what I was just curious. That was work or pleasure?
No, this is work. This is work. It's a course I paid for, and it's stuff that I should learn if I want to, play with hormones and anti-aging stuff. It's work. I'm not that interested in it right now. I kind of want to delay the exam until next year. Because, you go through your periods where, like, I was very, very nerdy. I would feel guilty if I read anything that wasn't a medical book, because medical school is so hard. And so I stopped reading anything. I even watched shows that were only medical shows. I would feel less guilty about doing that. If I watched something else, I'd be like, I wasted 2 hours. I should have been studying. Um,
But no, I get that. And when we work, that takes up a part of life. And then, if you have families or pets or other interests, those things called hobbies on the side, all of a sudden you blink and you realize, even though you love reading, sometimes that kind of gets pushed off. At least for me, I've noticed I had a couple months where I realized I wasn't reading pretty much anything. And I'm like, that's sad. Isn't part of a job of an author is to read? Because why are you writing if you don't read?
the funny thing, I didn't used to read much. So I wrote a sapphic sci-fi fantasy, and I was always looking for like good sapphic books, but there just weren't any. And I was like, you know what? I want a really good book, like really deep, thoughtful, intelligent, doctoral level book. And it should be a fiction, but it should have hidden meanings in it, and it should be free on Kindle or really cheap, so that I don't feel like, should I spend $10? Because to be honest, I did have that side to me. Sometimes if I haven't heard about the book, I'm like, should I not?
Yeah, that's
Stuff like that. So I was like, hey, I'll write it. I'll write that. I'll write what I want to read, basically. So that's what I did. At least that's what I hope I did. But yeah, I think I did it. That's one of the things about winning an award. You're like, did I do it? Did I do what I think I did? And when you do win the award, like, yes, it was good. Oh, thank God. And not only do I know for sure certain people read my book, but they did like it.
It's true, because I know a lot of young writers out there and authors out there, they'll put a book out and maybe sometimes it's the opposite, the only ones who read it are, your friends or family or something. You're like, well, did you really like it? Or are you just telling me you like it because you're trying to be nice to me? So when you start getting those first group of readers that don't know you, that are picking up the book, that's really neat. And even today, when I release books, my books or novellas or whatever, I always have this pause and I'm like, that weight of like, did anybody like it?
Yeah.
Or they all come back and be like, what did you do? Why did you waste my time? And I'll be like, I'm so sorry. Did you like it? So there is those moments and you're just like, oh my goodness. But I love the fact that, you had that moment where you're like, I want this book. I want to find this book, but I can't find this book. So why don't I write this book? Because I know that was one of the reasonings why I started my dark retelling of Nordic myth series, The Guardian Speaker, was because I read this obscure lore based off of Nordic myth, and I was like, wow, this is really, really cool. And the concept, which you might find interesting, is during the period of the Viking era, those peoples believed in four. I have a flash flooding alert because my area is raining a lot. So I'm inside, I'm safe. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
But 4 parts of self, where there was the physical body, the mind and soul put together, a person's personal luck, which was an entity as part of a person, and then the person's guardian spirit, which took an animal form, which I was like, that's really cool. I love anything with animals as well as myth. And I was like, why hasn't anybody utilized that concept in a fantasy book, in a work of fiction? And then I paused and I was like, wait, I'm a writer. I can write this book. And after years of doing research of Nordic myth and the Viking history time, it was, that's what I'm finishing up this year, hopefully, will be that series, which is kind of neat.
Cool.
But
what is that series called again?
Sorry, what? Oh, it's called The Guardian's Speaker.
The Guardian's Speaker or The Guardian Speaker?
The Guardian's Speaker, so yeah, without the S, sorry.
The Guardian Speaker. Okay. Who's the Guardian Speaker?
That would be, essentially that's my main character because, being a fantasy, why not? She's born with the ability to see and communicate with everybody's Fulgir, which are those animal-shaped guardian spirits. Of course, being the only person who has this ability, everybody sees her talking to herself and has always assumed that she is a little crazy, and so she's been shunned and ostracized and is kind of almost a very mousy character in the beginning of the series. And of course, because of this ability, she crosses paths with another person with a similar-ish ability. And it begins this big adventure, which will end up taking readers through the 9 realms in and around Yggdrasil, the World Tree. So you get to see all of Nordic myth, but you start with some really obscure lore. And I hold off all the iconic characters to like the last couple books. So if you're waiting for Loki or Thor or Odin, you're not going to see them anytime soon. You have to read the whole series.
Whoa. Okay. And you planned that when you started? Like it's going to be a series?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow. So someone who's really into Thor and all those Viking movies should read this. Especially
hopefully you would like it. You'll see this is really based off the mythos, and so you will see differences because Thor in like Marvel is this blonde-haired whatever guy. And in mythology, he's a redhead. He's not going to look the same. The personalities are going to be closer to, like, Loki is not going to be Tom Hiddleston. Loki's actually going to have scars from slash marks on his lips because of a storyline of a myth of, him doing something really, sketchy and getting punished for it. And so they're going to look like they're supposed to look in the myth, and you're going to learn a lot of the mythos, but hopefully be entertained with my retelling of those myths.
So they're real myths, like you could read that in a book. So that's like truth-based. And then you're
I guess, like I said, that's why I like retelling some of my retelling side of things. I have my retelling side, and then I have my true, just, out of my own brain stories. And so they're both fun to do, but the retellings are also kind of nice because the plotting's done for me. I'm just putting it all together in a way that is a little more approachable maybe for a modern reader, so you don't have to dig through 1,002 Eddas and sagas and ancient epics. I'm telling you, come here.
Yeah, I like that you've put all of the mythology in it, and then Thor and Odin at the end. Yeah. That's really cool.
Keep them wanting more.
Yeah. I had no idea what I was writing when I started.
Hey, that's absolutely fine. Sometimes that's a fun thing. You just see where the story takes you. So then I'm assuming, but I don't want to assume, you are one of those, what they call the pantser. You just sit down and just let the story come out of you.
Yeah. Or what I should say is I thought I was writing from here to here, but I didn't. I ended up kind of doing this. And I was like, oh, what I had in my head was so simple. Yeah, definitely not a plotter.
Hey, it's amazing, even when you just sit down and just put words on paper, how so many maybe side stories or subplots kind of just start revealing themselves, and it is kind of fun. Like, for you, who is your main, do you have like one main character, multiple? Who are your main characters? And actually, I should ask, tell me a little bit about them.
I have Zara and Lex. Actually, maybe I should put a picture of them as my background. I have Zara and Lex, who are the main characters. Zara is, so my couple is kind of traditional. Zara is more of the feminine one. Lex is more of the boyish one. And if people don't like that, you don't like that. It's fine. It's whatever. And I decided to put their silhouettes on the cover.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, I was wondering if I should even do that or not, like, because it gives away that it's a lesbian book. I was like, should I do that? Should I not do that with the political climate going on? I didn't know. So I'm like, I'll just put it up there. So, and yeah, those are my main characters. Zara is like a future climate refugee from Pakistan, which is my background. Lex is an American. Zara was brought up with a religious background, so when they're gonna teleport to Planet B, and there's a whole lot of cute little science in it. And when she teleports, because they both face challenges, because Planet B is like, no, you're not allowed. So she kind of falls back on her spiritual upbringing, and Lex is like an atheist. So when Lex goes through her challenges, it's extremely scientific. In fact, I liked writing her part maybe more. And it's about, I put a lot of body science into it, like medical science.
Well, your background.
Yes, like I couldn't not put it because that's literally all I've been reading my whole life, right? So I think all that reading paid off. And I put in stories that I saw within what happens. So like there's a story where she's subcellular, and there's a story which is about the DNA, and there's a whole lot of metaphors involved on every level. So it's fun. I like it. I'm proud of it. Yeah.
That's great. I love that. I absolutely love that. And it goes to show you shouldn't be afraid of like putting two or more different concepts together when writing a story, because I see it more often now that authors who are writing epic fantasy ended up putting undertones of a heist story or something that you would not necessarily expect when you think epic fantasy off the top of your head, but then all of a sudden it works. So, it's sometimes fun to be able to market it, and allows you to market your book to various niches, and you'll find you'll have some overlap, but it also gets interest from different groups. So, if you figure out, be like, okay, this is an LGBTQIA plus book, cool, I'll market to that group. Well, it also talks about some serious underlying concepts of the environment and the world and our planet. If you like that kind of stuff, check it out. If you like sci-fi fantasy, sci-fi fiction, all that kind of stuff, market to that group too. And it does allow you to reach, hopefully readers of all the audiences, and might surprise readers, be like, oh, I didn't know I was going to like a book like this, because they're coming in from this kind of pitch, and then they fall in love with it as a whole. So it is kind of a fun challenge.
Yeah.
Maybe just a challenge, who knows?
Yeah, if only I was better at the marketing. Are those your books in the background? The green and the yellow? Oh, cool.
Yeah, these are some of the books I have behind me. And I do see a comment popping up. Some say from Lionheart, who's author, saying that some people say that their book is similar thing to the Hunger Games, though I haven't read the series. Hey, that's okay. That means you could get the little cliff notes if you're not going to read the book, but use that for marketing, because people love, and it's something I need to be better about. People love those pitches where it's like, if you put this book together with this book and maybe sprinkle this book, you get my book. And it's just that it clicks with people. People are like, oh, that makes sense. And for the authors who know how to do that for their own work, it does help them. I don't know how to do that for a lot of my series. I'm going to be working to be better at that, but that's a good thing.
Yeah. I keep thinking about examples of that for my book, but I can't come up with something that describes most of it. I would say it's kind of like Inception plus, I don't know, plus Interstellar.
Hey,
plus
there you go. Wall-E.
Wall-E.
I'm sorry, I was thinking like, just because it's like one of those take care of your planet movies, and I was like, hey, these are some movies that represent my book. Think about this pitch, and throw them all together. I don't know.
Yeah. Plus The 100. Have you seen the show The 100? That inspired my book.
I'm starting to watch it. So there you go. See?
Okay.
New ways to pitch it. Yeah, simple, easy.
Yeah.
Use that sticker function on here, because that's what I use all the time, is the sticker function. You can upload video images, and so if you have book covers or movie posters, be like, look at that, put these together and you get my beautiful book.
Okay, cool. Well, you know what, I think that's really cool. You're a full-time professional author and an artist, so you're very creative minded.
I'm great with creativity. I'm very bad with actual marketing strategy. And that is the truth. I wish I was better, but there are some authors who can sit down and read books about stats and understand how it can work, and then make that work for them. And I'm like, algorithms and statistics, I'm like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I don't want to do. It's like, I do not want to do this, but I should do it despite the fact I don't want to. But I just sulk in the corner. I'm like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah. I even got I got to that point, and I know someone else who's in the same boat as me, where I was like, if I save enough money, can I pay someone to do the marketing? And no, you can't. You really can't. You can make an ad, but literally, I feel like the time right now is, I looked and it doesn't exist. We have to do our own marketing, it seems.
Yeah.
And
There are options, but usually that gets really expensive, or you have to prove that you have enough of a following, which the question is, how do we get that following to begin with? And so there is a little bit of that, but there are nice resources. And if you're not on it, and if you have Facebook, a great resource for indie authors is the 20 books to 50K group. And they are just a huge resource of everything for the business side of being an author. So marketing, advertising, that's what they kind of focus on. I am very bad about checking up on it because I get lost in the whole what I need to do that day and then forget, oh yeah, you know what, it would be good to, ask questions or check to see if someone's talked about the issues I'm having, but.
yeah, definitely. Lionheart, I'm shy in camera. Same here, Lionheart. Lionheart, when I first was told that, oh, you should go join TikTok and get into book talk, I was like, I'm not putting my face out there. People don't need to know what the author looks like. Are you kidding? If I wanted my face out there, I wouldn't be writing books behind a computer. So I totally get that. But, like I said in the beginning, I realized I can't come on TikTok and talk about issues that matter to me, the same stuff that I write my book about. So that's how I started. And Lionheart, maybe it'll work out the same as with you. Who knows? But Katharine is doing it, and you're doing a wonderful job. I love your videos and your question of the day. Things I've never thought about. Like what?
A lot of fantasy and a lot of fiction stuff out there, but it's fun. And when you will admit, and here's the marketing side of those kind of things, doing what they call engagement posts. So like I have a series of question a day. It's great to keep your followers entertained in between publishing new books, because if they've already read everything I have, then what's keeping them around to hang out and check back in and then remember me when it comes time to release. So doing stuff like that is a great way to, again, engage with your readership, keep them interested, and find new potential readers. Hopefully they will become readers. That's what we want. But yeah, as far as being, shy on camera, there are authors that never show their face on this platform, and they do very, very well. They do a lot of the, flipping page things or in quotes and figure out how to do other visuals. I know that one of my other author friends has been having great success doing a series of photos. So if you don't want to actively be talking in front of camera, be okay with taking a picture of like you with your book, you could put a post there or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they've been having success with the multiple photos style posts. So there are workarounds though. More often than not, the shy people, once they start talking in front of the camera, they're like, oh, it's not as scary as you initially thought.
Let me send this live out to whoever I can. Boom, 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 boom.
Hey, and if English is your second language, guess what? That's totally fine. There are a lot of people on here that's the case, and we understand.
Yeah.
English is only one language out of many. But
do you have a favorite book that you've written? Or part of a book?
That is like asking which child's better than another. Just know that when you ask that to an author. I have characters and I have books that I've enjoyed, maybe the writing process more, others maybe the storyline, but the fun thing is I always get so excited about whatever I'm working on. So it's always the book that's coming that I get really, really excited about. I think it's that whole, it's a new project thing. And then by the time I'm publishing it, I'm like, oh, I'm so done going over edits of this book. Let's go to the next thing. But it's always the next one, I feel like. So it's hard to say. But I love them all differently because they all have very different feels, even though they're fantasy. And it'll be interesting if you choose to write another book, how you'll feel going forward, or if it's going to be the same for you, or just have your own different experience.
Yeah. So I have a question. So do members of your family read your books, or did they read your first book?
Yes, I have members of my family that have read my books, and I have plenty that have not. Though they have bought a book or two just because they're members of my family. And so, and even my husband's this way. He found out he's the way he just works. If it's an audiobook, he's starting to now read my books through that format, but up until then, I've written a few, and he's not a sit-down reader, so that's okay. I'm not going to make someone read my books just because they know me, and I'm very adamant to tell my friends, I'm like, don't feel like you have to.
Yeah.
I want people to read it because they want to read it. I want to have people read it because they like what the topics I'm talking about. If you don't like fantasy, exactly. I don't know if I'm going to sell you on fantasy, though I have changed some people's minds, but that's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is find the people who like fantasy so that we can hang out and talk fantasy.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you go to like writers' conventions and stuff and conferences?
I have recently started doing that kind of thing. And so on the learning side, I attended the 20 Books 50K in Vegas conference, which is being rebranded to Author Nation this year. And I'll be back there this year to attend again as the learning side of things and as a way to network with other authors, because that's a lot of fun. To actually meet a lot of these faces that we see here on Book Talk is really neat. But as far as presenting, I've been a panelist for a few years. And this year I'll be starting to sell books at a couple conventions, Dragon Con and Multiverse Con, both located in the Atlanta area because that's where I live. So it's easier for me to make that journey than travel across the country. But so yes, I'm starting to do that and starting to become more aware of what's in my area and building outwards to do more events and conventions and stuff like that.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's pretty cool. And so this convention where you meet other book talkers, is that the same as what just happened? I think I saw a bunch of TikToks about the book talk thing.
There are smaller events that are 100% book talk focused on, or right. At least that's the basis of the group that founded them. But this one is not. The Author Nation is, I think, the world's biggest indie author convention, and it pulls people globally, and it's, again, everything from the writing craft to the marketing advertising side. It's a huge resource of information. It is very overwhelming. It's a full week of a lot of stuff, panels and events and workshops, but it's an amazing experience as well. So,
okay.
Yeah, the event in Vegas. I thought it's worth it. I'm doing it again, and I'm already talking about even next year, even though I haven't gone to this year's one because it's held in November, but I was really wowed. And if you are someone who's on the beginning side of writing, there's a lot of courses and classes and seminars, I should say, that are on the craft of writing. If I have a bunch of books, but I need to figure out how to get these to the right people, they have all that side, and that's kind of what I attend is teach me how to market better, teach me how to advertise, how do I start my first Kickstarter, all that kind of fun stuff, and how do I move to direct sales. And so those are the things that I enjoy learning. Plus, again, networking is an amazing thing because if you ever have an issue, you can talk to your author buddies and be like, hey, it looks like you're doing well in this, this niche. Can you help me? And I get a lot of help that way. So it's nice to kind of do that. But I think it's worth it. I hope it's worth it for everybody else who attends, but that's just my experience from the past. Now let me ask you, because our hour is starting to speed by, because it always happens and you blink and that's what happens, but I do want to make sure I ask a couple things again in the off chance that I'm able to repost this, but also for everybody who's listening. And you kind of mentioned some of this a little earlier, but where can people find and follow you outside of Book Talk? So again, website, newsletter, other social medias, if you're on other social medias. So just kind of rehash that, because I know you mentioned some of that a little earlier on.
Yes, thank you. planetbthebook.com is my website. So literally just www.planetbthebook.com. That was supposed to be the initial name of the book. And the book's name is With Love from Planet B. And if you Google With Love from Planet B, I think the website comes up. The website has a link to all the audiobook, the ebook, the physical books. The ebook is actually free everywhere except Amazon, which doesn't let it be free. Yeah. And the audiobook is awesome. It's narrated by an award-winning author, Gabra Zachman, and her voice just does this thing, and it's just great. But you can subscribe to me there, and I have this main account, the With Love from Planet B. I have another account which I wanted to keep secret, so I named it Planet B Secret.
That's hysterical.
I know. That's my political account and feminist account and blah, all of that stuff, and medical account too. So,
All the other
what
things.
about you? You should tell your stuff as well.
Well, for those who know me, they probably heard this 1,000 times. But yeah, I have my website, KatharineWibellBooks.com. And on it, or if you check on any of my social media, there should be a link to my links page on it that functions like a link tree, which has all sorts of resources for everything under the sun. But I am on, obviously, Book Talk. I have a Facebook page as well as a Facebook group. In the group, we kind of do group projects like creating monsters for future books and stuff like that. I have Instagram. I do have an X, so I'm not really that active on X, Pinterest, YouTube. Like on a lot of places. It's a little exhausting, but I try. I try my best to keep in contact and chat with everybody. And I do have a newsletter, but all that information is on my link in my bio. Just kept it simple, including the fact that if anybody's attending, we'll announce this for the first time, going to attend Dragon Con or Multiverse Con later on this year in and around the Atlanta area, I'm accepting pre-orders for books. So if you want a signed copy and you want it signed there, you can pre-order it and reserve it so I don't sell out. Woo! There's my pitch.
You know what? I kind of want to go to this Multiverse Con. I'm gonna look into it.
Yeah, it's one of the smaller ones, but it's my first time I'm going to go. But any author I've talked to who's been there, I think it's like their third year or fourth year now, said it's one of the most charming, just little conventions. And for the, a lot of bookish, a lot of sci-fi fantasy community, people just seem to really enjoy it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go.
Yeah. Do people dress up?
I'm assuming yes. Again, haven't been to that one. I'm assuming you can have that option. It's always optional. Understand that. And, but I might. There's a good chance I might. If that's an option, I might.
Where is it again?
It is in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, yeah, I could fly there. Okay.
And it's that will be in October, and Dragon Con's Labor Day weekend, so that's at the end of August, beginning of September. But those are the two that I'm doing as a panelist / bookseller. So, woot.
Wow. Nice. For those who don't know, a panelist is like you'll go to these events and a panel, and you can ask her questions and meet her face to face. Panels are pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think it is a lot of fun because we get to talk about nerding out on topics on maybe it's monsters in literature, or maybe it's the writing craft, but depending on what you're interested in, or just books in general. It's fun. That's what I like to do. Now, let me also ask, because I have a couple things I always want to make sure I ask before the end. And the other one is, as you kind of mentioned a little bit before, you have your book available in all formats, correct? And you said you distribute it, your ebooks, audiobooks, paperback, hardcover, all kinds of stuff wide. So you found, okay.
Everywhere that Findaway Voices is the audio one, everywhere they distribute, and they claim to put it everywhere, and Draft Digital claims to put it everywhere. And if nothing else, it's on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, Target, Walmart, Kobo. There are all these really cool audiobook apps, by the way, which are really cheap and affordable. Some of them are free. You just have to show your library card. So my book is on all of those as well.
That's cool. And that's the thing is that's one of my to-dos maybe before the end of the year is move my audiobooks, because they went from exclusive through Audible and iTunes, but I'm moving them. I have direct sales, and for some of them, direct sales, and the ones that I'm moving towards the wide thing, I want to put them on Findaway so that they can hopefully find people on all different kind of audiobook platforms, and just make it, again, a little more accessible as possible for people, because I like the perks of the payout in the sense of percentage that the Zaayin side does. On the other hand, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket, and there's a lot more to that too.
I'm laughing at the Zaayin side.
There's a lot to that too. So that's one of my goals, but to be done in the near future, hopefully. But yeah. So let me ask you and everybody else who's listening, is there any topic that you wanted to cover that we haven't covered, or any questions that you guys have that you haven't asked? And I mean, this goes for you as well. So since we want to make sure everybody gets their information satisfied.
No questions. I just feel like it's really cool. Yeah, full-time author and artist, and it's just I feel like you're a good example to people that you can be a full-time author and artist and not have to have a job that, you know, is like hard or difficult or they hate. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's pretty
well,
cool.
it's one of those things that I hope, I feel in my gut. I hope that if people want to take this craft seriously, that it can be a possible occupation for you. But there's going to be a lot of work. There are going to be those exceptions, which put a first book out and instant success. Very rare, few and far between. But if you do really work at it, what I hope in the back of my mind that people can achieve that goal. Now, most likely, it's not going to be on one book. You'll probably have to write a few because it's easier to sell 10 books to one people than one book to 10 people. So the more you have, the more, you know, profitable theoretically you can be in the future. But again, not always the case.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right. This was really cool. I think we should do more of these. I should come live more. Thank you so much for having me on
Come live
here.
more.
Yeah, we can have a whole group one of these days.
Yeah, no, it's something I've considered, just like hosting a panel one just for fun once in a while, but haven't had there's a lot to do when, you know, you're an indie author. There's, you know, the marketing, advertising, editing, oh my god, it goes on and on and on, that I always forget some of the fun things sometimes. But if you ever want to do one of these again, I do them weekly. I do schedule them in advance, but I do them weekly, so, you know, let me know. We can always arrange another one in the future.
Definitely, definitely. And G, if you're still there, thank you for joining. Everyone, thank you for listening.
Yes, and again, I will try to repost this on my YouTube channel in a few weeks. And so if you wanted to check back on anything and have any links to find and follow people, be down below.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful evening, and thank you for everybody who's hung out with us for the last hour or so.
Bye, Katharine.
Bye.